There's a lot of people here today. Thank you all for your presence. And I'm going to put this water down. Thank you, Arcata City Council, for hearing this very important issue to decriminalize nature here in Arcata. And thank you, Council Member Schaefer, for having the courageous leadership and sponsoring this resolution. And I wanted to thank Police Chief Brian Ahern for being open to discussing this resolution with us, and also for offering his suggestions. And we look forward to working with the City Council and the Police Chief in ensuring that Arcata residents can heal from entheogenic experiences without having to worry about prosecution or arrest. Getting into the resolution, I am going to tell you a little bit of why I am passionate about decriminalization. I was severely depressed my entire life, from childhood into adulthood. And when I was a little girl, I wished to God that I had never been born. When I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I took harmful substances and I invited very unkind people into my life. And I didn't see a way out of the depression. And I had the opportunity to travel to Brazil, and I drank ayahuasca, which contains DMT. And during that experience, I, for the first time, saw myself, saw who I was, and I loved myself. And with that love, the depression went away, and the need for addiction went away. And it's been 8 years, and I'm happy and healthy. And I want that same opportunity for others who are in pain. In the city of Arcata and in Humboldt County, there's very high rates of addiction to harmful substances such as heroin, methamphetamine, alcohol. I was a CASA volunteer for 7 years, and I saw in our county child abuse and neglect is at very high rates. And much of that is because of their parents being addicted to harmful substances. And much of why people are addicted to harmful substances is because of childhood trauma themselves. It's a cycle. And these entheogens are able to break that cycle. They're able to heal the childhood trauma and break that cycle of addiction. And I'm not saying that decriminalizing is going to solve all the problems. It's not. But it is the first step in the right direction to get people the help they so desperately need. And also with COVID, this pandemic, depression and anxiety have been at very high rates, and many people in our community do not rely on pharmaceuticals, and they want natural alternatives. And entheogens provide a natural alternative that has been proved by science to decrease depression and anxiety. So there was no scientific reason for Nixon to decriminalize these substances in the Controlled Substance Act. I'm going to say a quote from John Ehrlichman, who was a former Nixon domestic policy chief. He stated, "The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities," Ehrlichman said. "We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did." The following natural and sacred plant and fungi material is what the resolution addresses. These plants and fungi have been utilized by cultures across the globe for hundreds and sometimes thousands of years. I would like to read from the resolution for the City Council and Arcata community. The evidence or research for presenting the resolution are found in the following whereas statements. Entheogens are mushrooms containing psilocybin, cacti containing mescaline, ayahuasca which contains DMT, and plants containing ibogaine. These entheogens can be beneficial for psychological and physical wellness, can enhance and support religious and spiritual practices, and can reestablish human relationship with nature. Scientific research has shown that entheogens are beneficial for those suffering from addiction, PTSD, chronic depression, severe anxiety, end-of-life anxiety, and cluster headaches, and other conditions that are present in our community. These entheogens catalyze profound experiences of personal and spiritual growth that would benefit the health and well-being of individuals and communities. People in our community seeking to improve their health and well-being through the use of entheogens should not have to worry about being arrested or prosecuted due to current legal prohibitions. The City of Arcata has other priorities for the use of its funds, staff, and public safety resources. The United Nations considers entheogenic plants and fungi used for ritual purposes as excluded from Schedule I substances, and these practices are already protected in the US for certain groups under the principle of religious freedom. Entheogenic plants containing ibogaine can alleviate opioid and methamphetamine addiction more than any other treatment. Plant combinations similar to ayahuasca that contain DMT can be beneficial for treating addiction, depression, and catalyzing profound experiences of personal and spiritual growth. Cacti containing mescaline can be beneficial for treating drug addiction and alcohol addiction, and for enhancing spiritual growth. Mushrooms containing psilocybin can alleviate end-of-life anxiety, reduce prison recidivism, treat substance abuse, depression, and cluster headaches. Studies at Johns Hopkins have also shown that mushrooms can create mystical-type experiences, which were considered as one of the top 5 most meaningful experiences in the subject's life. All of these entheogens have been used in diverse religious and cultural traditions for millennia. Given these whereas statements, we are asking the Arcata City Council to decriminalize sacred plants and fungi with the following resolves. May it be resolved that the mayor, vice mayor, and city council declare the policy of the city of Arcata that the investigation and arrest of persons for planting, cultivating, purchasing, transporting, distributing, engaging in practices with, or possessing entheogenic plants and fungi or plant compounds on the federal Schedule I list shall not be a public safety priority for the city of Arcata, and city funds or resources shall not be used in investigating, detaining, arresting, or prosecuting the use and practices described above regarding entheogenic plants and fungi. This resolution does not authorize or enable any of the following activities: commercial sales or manufacturing of these plants and fungi, possessing or distributing these entheogens in schools, driving under the influence, public disturbance, or when public safety is jeopardized. Limited resources may be used to address these issues and does not deter investigation, prosecution, or arrest of crimes. May it be further resolved that the mayor, vice mayor, and city council call upon the Humboldt County District Attorney to cease prosecution of persons solely involved in the use of entheogenic plants and fungi or plant-based compounds designated by the Federal Controlled Substance Act. There are 6 cities that have adopted similar policies as this resolution across the U.S. These cities include Oakland and Santa Cruz, California, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Somerville and Cambridge, Massachusetts. And in these cities, 53 out of 54 city council members voted in support. And in Washington, D.C., there was a 76% voter approval. This highlights the strong desire of the community nationwide to change policy to decriminalize sacred plants and fungi. In terms of staff time related to this issue, this resolution has already been vetted by city attorney offices across the U.S. There have been no reports of emergencies or increased crime or public issues in connection with decriminalization of entheogens. Decriminalization is a risk reduction strategy so that those who are already having these experiences get the support and resources they need. Given the progressive nature of public safety officers already around this issue in Arcata, which does not prioritize the arrest of those using entheogens, we would like to codify this within the City Council to make it official and ensure people can have the personal sovereignty to heal with sacred plants and mushrooms. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and Dr. Larry Norris should be on the phone.
Hello. Let's go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
Awesome. My name is Cyrus Myers. I grew up here since '91, and I joined the military in 2015. I was in the military for 17 years. 7 years. I'm a little nervous in front of a lot of people. During my 2 times overseas in Iraq, I was subjected to a lot of violence early on. I lost 9 of my friends and 33 throughout the brigade. I saw men, women, and children blown up, shot, burned, and displaced by war. Growing up here, that was a lot to see in person. I wanted my own experience, and I got more than I bargained for. Coming back home after my second deployment, I almost shot myself. And a phone call from my dad right before I pulled the trigger kind of brought me back to reality of like, oh yeah, home. Like there's still some place I can go that's safe. Prior to that, I got heavily addicted into methamphetamine. I lost $40,000 in savings, a house, a cat, a car, my wife, and I woke up driving on the freeway. One experience with psychedelics, 14 hours later, changed my life. I stopped my use of methamphetamine, coke, and any other speed, and it's been 11 years since I've been clean, coming up on 12. I'm a firm believer that psychedelics gave me an opportunity to view my life outside of itself, as an observer versus a participant. I'm not here to advocate, and I do not wish for applause. I'm simply saying that sometimes medicine can be a drug, and sometimes drugs can be a medicine. It is all situational dependent, and it is on the individual to be given that opportunity and that experience to where they can at least try and not be subjected to drugs pushed by a pharmaceutical company, not be pushed to alcohol, which induces depression and anger. That's it.
Hi, I'm Skip Simbera, and I'm a member of the Decriminalize Nature movement here in Arcata. I do appreciate the opportunity to be here with an audience to speak about entheogens and my experiences. My story is also one of addiction, whether it was drugs, alcohol, tobacco, or even my job. Entheogens have helped me to overcome all of these addictions. Something that is not often talked about is the shame and the guilt that a former addict carries with them even after recovering from an addiction for the damage that they have done to themselves and the people around them. Entheogens have given me the tools to forgive myself and let go of the shame and guilt and to fully move on from my past. I have also had the privilege to spend time in a community that has ceremonial use of entheogens at the center of their culture. This is a small village in the Peruvian Amazon rainforest where the Shipibo people reside. What I have witnessed is, even in poverty, the community is happy, and all members of the community are treated with respect and dignity. Crime is also virtually non-existent, and if a community member has an emotional or spiritual crisis, they are able to seek out help and receive healing and clarity by sitting in ceremony with ayahuasca. I believe that our modern society has a lot to learn from these cultures, and decriminalizing the use of entheogens in our city is the first step in that direction. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, community members, kind relatives. Thank you so much for coming to support this resolution tonight. I spent 2 years in the military before I was forced to honorably discharge due to a serious mental health condition. The major depressive episode that I found myself in at the end of 2014 nearly cost me my life. I did not find healing through drug addiction or alcohol or traditional therapy. For years, I struggled. I walked every day with pain, and it wasn't until I was able to have a transformational psychedelic experience with ayahuasca that opened a doorway for me into more of these sacred plant teachers that since then I have been able to find true healing, joy, and beauty in my life. Feelings that for years I was not able to find healing and relief, that I wasn't able to find anywhere else except through these natural gifts that the earth has given us, that there is so much science now and research out there to back just how profoundly useful they can be in so many different varieties of therapeutic settings. And the reason why I'm involved with the Decriminalize Nature movement here in Arcata is because I believe every human being should have the right to work with these medicines. They shouldn't have to have a sense of fear or worry or that they're doing something wrong, as Madeline just said, but that we all deserve the right to heal. And in a community that is plagued by a mental health epidemic, every single member of our community here deserves the right to fair, safe, ethical, and equitable access to these entheogenic medicines. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for hearing us. My name is David. I'm actually not an Arcata resident. I live up in Neeland. I just came down to kind of voice and support this movement. And thank you guys. What you said was just brilliant, and I love that we have this support locally and stuff. I'm 32. My first time trying psilocybin was when I was 22. And I grew up in Utah, and I just kind of grew up in a religious system that at the point where I got to taking these, it kind of like disrupts your entire.
Greetings, council members, community. My name is Ezekiel Io. I'm a local here. I was born here. And yeah, I don't do the public speaking thing a lot, so I'm just gonna do my best. Yeah, I believe that these plant medicines are our allies and our teachers, and I believe that they have an important role in evolving humanity. I think that they need to be approached with a lot of respect and reverence and safety and knowledge about them, and try and just be safe. Yeah, a few years ago I started working with ayahuasca, and it's greatly changed my life for the better. I just feel like a deeper sense of connection with myself and nature, and maybe a deeper understanding that we're maybe not so separate from nature. I think that just helps in treating our earth better. Yeah, just feeling more confident in who I am, and a deeper trust in myself, my inner knowing. Being able to just kind of walk through the world in an easier way and feel more comfortable in my body and in my skin. And yeah, just super helpful. I feel like, made a lot of personal growth in the past few years. And yeah, so just want to give thanks for these plant teachers. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Luke Aroney. I've been living in Arcata on and off for about 8 years. I originally came up here as a student at HSU. And during that time, I was experiencing a really heavy depressive episode. I just felt really lost. I was a young adult, and a friend invited me to take psilocybin mushrooms with him out in the forest, and that was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. It just opened me up to a whole new world of perspective. It felt like it was the first time I kind of saw reality without a filter, so to speak. And at the end of the day, I just really felt more connected and at home on this earth than I ever had before. And I think that is an experience that should be available to every human being, is feeling that you are a part of the universe and that you belong here. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Lydia, and my passion behind this medicine is very similar to a lot of other people, being severely depressed at a very young age and finally finding a medicine that brought me hope. I've always been very involved with the youth of my community growing up through sports and music. I ended up, as I got older, becoming a coach and a teacher in many different forms. And it is so wonderful, but also so heartbreaking to have such young people reach out to me telling me how suicidal they are, especially when I went through that myself. A lot of dear friends, even family, people that I just know from school have had their lives ripped apart from legal prescribed drugs that completely turned their lives upside down. I don't even have the words to express my heartbreak with that. And especially throughout this youth, it just has become more and more prevalent. The amount of even children that have reached out to me telling me that they want to kill themselves is just horrifying. And just knowing what this medicine has done for me and how I was severely depressed after very many traumatic events in my life, very personal things that I thought I could never get out of, using this medicine, like everyone else, has given me so much hope, and I just really hope that the future and that history will end up using it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Stuart Richland. I'm a local, of 2 years local anyway. And, these are our God-given rights to access these states. So I think the things that were said by the council members are amazing, and the community. But in terms of jurisdiction, let's always remember that, government has limits. Our Constitution is one of limited government. So the question is, can the government stop religious exercise? Of course not. But I'm just so happy that most of the things people mentioned were in terms of their spiritual experience.
My name's Alicia. I work as a civil engineer. I moved up to Arcata last November. And I wasn't going to speak at first, but I just wanted to say that I've spoken in a number of city council meetings when I lived in Santa Cruz, which is where I moved from, and have come to speak for things that I really love before. And I've never been in a city council meeting where I've cried from an open-hearted space like this so many times from hearing everyone here speak. And I don't even have words to express the level of gratitude I have to know that this resolution is here, that this is being received by the city council, and to hear all the stories everyone here has shared. And the fact that that level of open-heartedness and presence and vulnerability is able to happen within a government building like this is incredible, and I think really speaks to the potency of these medicines and of the spiritual experience and the connective experience people are able to have through it. So thank you, and thank all of you, and thank you.
Thank you.
And even, during my own campaign, I heard that this was an issue that a lot of people, saw that Arcata could be a leader in this. And as we are kind of just going ahead, I just think, this is an important step for us to take basically as a stand that we want to, step away from this war on drugs. And, we are in a town where you can probably walk out there and walk a block and get to a dispensary, right? I mean, marijuana used to be criminalized on a level that was equivalent to where we're looking at entheogens today. And so, in a town where there are 5 to maybe even 10 at this point dispensaries, I think we can see this as a step of moving forward and see how criminalization of drugs, especially ones that are natural and plant-based and come from the earth, is not necessarily in the best interest of our community and of individuals. And also looking, you mentioned all the cities in the United States, the entire state of Oregon. California is currently looking at a state bill that has made it through the state Senate and is in the state assembly and has been in committee and is looking to do, a similar decriminalization that we're proposing here. And also the entire country of Portugal has, decriminalized drugs and has seen these benefits that you talk about with, less arrests, it's not encouraging people to go out and buy drugs left and right? It's a method of healing, to step away from this criminalization and seeing somebody as a criminal for doing drugs, as an addict, and making them a deviant, where it should be something that we can help people with addiction, and maybe even in this case use these plants to help people with addiction. I have seen it firsthand from people in my own life that have used psilocybin to be able to overcome addictions to alcohol, addictions to smoking, and use microdosing as a way to improve their personal life.
One of the issues that we have right now is a limited amount of staff time. So we have extremely limited resources and an abundance of goals, and that's a consideration. It's a practical thing. It's not very sexy, but it's where we are, and so I think that that's something that we should consider before we move forward and request more staff time. And just also, as it was brought up, maybe to inquire from other aspects of the community, like, do we want to know what our public health department thinks about this, or should it go through our public safety committee? I know the Chief Ahern did give some feedback on the resolution, which some of it was taken and some of it wasn't. Does he feel like it's a resolution that will work for our community and for the police department? Should there be an educational campaign that accompanies the resolution? I think a really important part of what you guys were talking about is that you had positive experiences because you must have had the right guidance and teaching and surroundings in which to do that. And I do, on personal accounts, have experienced, not myself, but through other people, some very negative things when these types of medicines go wrong, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Sometimes they're misused or not used properly, and there can be very serious consequences. So, the resolution itself, it gives many examples of the healing proprieties of entheogenic plants and fungi. But approving such a resolution without a proper educational campaign to go along with it is concerning to me, because as some of you guys pointed out, there are people who are desperate to feel better, and this could be a solution for them. But, if we're writing a resolution, we're essentially endorsing these practices. And so I just want to make sure that we will have done or will do our due diligence to consider their safety. And just from a practical aspect, I looked up SB 519 because it is what Sarah brought up, legalizes the possession of psychedelics, and it is making its way through the Senate. So it's been approved by the California Assembly Public Safety Committee, and it's moving forward. If it passes, which it looks like there is a good chance it could, it'll be accomplishing, I believe, in a sense of what this proposed ordinance is suggesting.
All of you shared really personal things, and I'm really moved by that, so I want to share something personal too. So I also, like many of you, deal with a lot of depression and anxiety, but unlike you, pharmaceutical drugs have worked for me. And if anyone tried to take that away from me or tried to criminalize me for that, I don't know what I would do. And so just because I use something different to deal with my mental health issues doesn't mean that I think the way you do it is wrong or any worse, or that my way is any better. And I have had moments where there's been lapses in my prescription and I had to frantically call my doctor, and that is terrifying to think I won't get my next dose, because it has really changed my life. And so we have pretty poor mental health care in this community. I think we can all be pretty honest about that. And if this is something that is improving the mental health of our community, then I can't say no to that, because it's not a mental health is not one size fits all, and what works for me is not going to work for the next person necessarily. We're all really different. And so I just wanted to say thank you, because I think I already kind of came into this feeling like I feel pretty good about this. I'll probably vote yes, but you all really touched me, and I really appreciate that. So I think that this is bigger than just legalizing or decriminalizing one type of drug or medicine. I think it is about improving the mental health in our community, which is something we've stated as a council is our goal.
Our city staff time. Well, if it's something that can help the mental health of our community, help our homeless community, which I think are the two top priorities of our council goals this year, then I think this falls under that category. I don't think it is a waste of staff resources, especially when we have an almost complete resolution sitting in front. We're not drafting an entire resolution from scratch. We're able to follow other communities in California who have already done this to show their support of this. I think it's perfectly great to pass it before State Bill 519, because we are showing that, yes, the state should pass this bill. It should be something that moves forward. So
I feel like my initial sense of this resolution, it would minimize your personal stories, and I don't want to do that in this setting. I am looking forward, though, to some further discussion, as the city manager talked about. And ultimately, I do what I am told to do by the council and by the city manager. But make no mistake, I'm here as your chief to protect you, and to protect you. And I feel like just at a fundamental level, without safeguards in place, without some sort of regulation, I am fearful that people who perhaps are not represented here tonight may look at this as governmental permission to experiment, which could turn into a very, very tragic situation that's multiplied. So quite frankly, I felt like I was on a psychedelic trip tonight myself, listening to everything. I mean, it's, you people believe in this. So I value that. And obviously, I think we can take out the language about fearful of arrest, because many of you are doing it over and over again. Cool. So let's maybe take that piece out, because this really isn't about the police department. But the resolution is. Right? It's about fear of arrest, law enforcement. Like we're banging down people's doors and taking away their psychedelic drugs. That doesn't happen here in Arcata. So I think we can do some work and maybe bring the resolution to where it's more factual and representative of our great community here in Arcata, and respectful of what you are trying to achieve through these substances at the, I guess, the governance of the City Council. So, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question to the chief here, and this might be a very hypothetical question. I mean, so say we don't pass any resolution like this and it disappears. And then Decriminalize Nature Humboldt is holding an event where you can participate and learn how to safely take psilocybin. What would the police department do? I mean, in that case, that is illegal. So would you go there and you would stop it? I think the point of this resolution is to say, yeah, you could have these educational events where we take that step to have the education to safeguard against these worries that, you know, folks have.
I do like the piece in the resolution that affords anytime there's a public disturbance, you know, that doesn't mean that the police department can't respond and take care of that issue. I think that's interpreted by some as, yeah, but the mushroom piece you have to ignore. Well, I mean, let's back up a little bit more. I mean, what gives the Arcata City Council the right to circumvent the law to begin with? I mean, let's answer some of those fundamental questions, because where does it go from there? Right? As the chief of police, do I get to decide which use of force policies to follow and which ones not to? So, you know, I think we're setting a precedent here that I think we need to be very, very careful about and very thoughtful about, and do our homework so that we know exactly what it is we're signing up for.
Sorry, just one more comment. So, I mean, based off of what you just said, then is all of the marijuana in the state of California illegal because it's federally illegal? Is the entire state of Oregon, by decriminalizing Schedule I drugs, it's illegal and it can't be enforced? That's how federalism works. I mean, you start at the smallest level and you can make decisions based on your community and build them up. And so, I mean, I don't know. I think saying, well, it's illegal, but so is pot federally. If you left here and went to a state that's not legal, you're in big trouble, you know. And so, I mean, just because something's federally illegal when it probably shouldn't be, I don't know. I don't think that should discourage this, but it's the same principle, really. So, I mean, I think that point is moot.
Yeah, I mean, respectfully, you asked what authority we have. I mean, it is our job to guide our city. I mean, that is our authority. And so, I mean, I say that respectfully. I don't mean any disrespect, but you did question our authority, and that is our authority. So this is what our people, I was elected by the people. This is what my people say they want. That's all I can say.
So I do agree that there should be some kind of educational component. I mean, I'd like to see that largely done by Decriminalize Humboldt. I feel like you know, they're the ones, you know, with the most knowledge about it, and so to me that's, you know, a really important part about moving anything forward. And it is pretty standard practice. We do have committees for a reason to look at things more in-depth level for us, and I do think it'd be appropriate to send it through our Public Safety Committee. So those are my two, you know, thoughts on it. We should send it to the Public Safety Committee for review, and you know, and I'd like to see an educational component, some kind of campaign brought forward to the city.